In the spirit of the Christian winter celebration, I've decided to show you guys and come up with a way of doing an angel. An important part of this was that it had posable wings, so that's going to be a big part of it. And it's also why I'm releasing it so early, so that if you want, you can make your own angel with feathery, pretty, angely wings. So as you can see, I used nail polish remover rather than pure acetone this time, and you can see the struggle is real. It's hard going comparatively, so it's definitely, if you want to do this as a hobby and do it reasonably frequently, it's definitely worth it to invest and just find out where you can get it. So for me, I get it from Boys, which is kind of a cheap kind of supermarket that has like a whole sewing and craft upstairs. It's actually a really great store. It's got pretty much everything, and this, as you can see, I've got the I would say Gulia. I've got Abominable as my base because she has sparkly skin. However, and also perfect like white hair. However, she does have these weird streaks. So painstakingly, I went through and snipped every single strand. I've definitely missed a few blue ones, but all the pink ones hopefully gone. Can't see them anymore. And just going through the process of just rerouting those areas and kind of making it thicker and fuller and more luscious, but leaving what is originally there. It was only a partial reroute, so it's kind of tricky navigating around the already there hair and what I wanted to do. Because if I was going to reroute this from scratch, I probably wouldn't give it a fringe. It'd probably be set up a bit differently, and you kind of, especially because the fringe on Monster High dolls come quite high, so I kind of have the occasional just like really short strand coming up where really it should just be a long strand, and kind of shifting it around so that the bangs are kind of covering but like and not showing like their little roots, but also I didn't really want to cut any of this nice hair I've rerouted to be really short. Admittedly, looking at the final product, which we soon will, I did make a few problems. So I had some like really, I did this in about 3 hours, just straight out watching Doctor Who on Netflix. And admittedly, a good tip is to split these when it comes to the parting as you're going, because it's much harder afterwards. But I kind of did some really big hair bundles when I was getting lazy, and because I put one or two too high, it makes a little bump because it's just too many coming out of one area, and it becomes quite visible, as you can see. So obviously it's all puffy because I haven't boil washed it yet, but little, let's see the root on the right hand side, the towards our side, some of them are a bit lumpy bumpy. But let's get into what hopefully some people came here for, how to make posable wings. So basically I use the body to work out how big I want the wings to be, and then the wire on the left to create kind of a backbone, or basically bones, that to create the structure of the wing. So the one trick that I developed is circles. Circles are strong, circles are reinforceable. It's much easier than just doubling a wire. So at the apex and at the middle of the back, the apex of the wing and the middle of the back, I created circles. But you have to be careful, so that one can be whatever because you're going to cover it up. But you have to make sure that the circle in the middle of the back is the size you want your screw to be. So pay attention to that. I made it way too large, and we had to basically just shift it around and twist it until it was small enough. So better too big than too small. I put some extra effort into making sure that the stitching and reinforcing with this felt looks good, because I'm not planning on covering both sides with feathers. The main reason for that is because I collected these feathers from around the garden. We have 3 guinea fowl. We've got 2 normal guinea fowl and 1 lavender one. As you can see, I just kind of stitched the backbone to the felt, and now I'm covering up the felt backbone, or trying to. I don't think I fully cover the apex circle, but because there's only 1 lavender one, I didn't get enough feathers to have both sides. Now you can try either gluing or sewing on the feathers. Sewing them on will probably be stronger, but I tried gluing it because they didn't really have enough excess feathers for me to then hide that. So obviously this point is just planning where the feathers are. So in an actual bird, I mean this would be much easier if you were to buy some, because I've got ones from different parts of the body. They're not all angling the same way, and even then I had some trouble with this glue. The glue was fine, not blaming the glue, but it's harder to attach fabric to curved objects that are curving away from what you want. So what I did was I kind of glued it down, pressed it down for a bit, as you can see, and then I glued on top and around the kind of edges. So that's a gluing tip. Now, this was the fastest repaint I have ever done. I did it over 2 days, 2 layers underneath and then 4 layers on top, so 3 of working, which is not a lot for me. It might be normal for others. And I put part of it down to the use of pastels. And I would say probably my problem with pastels is likely due to application. It's kind of like makeup. A fluffy brush will not give you the same intensity that those like 90s pieces of plastic with pieces of foam attached to them will do. So I think I'll probably invest in some of those and more cotton swabs, because this worked out really well for me. So I just kind of put a cheek and a little blue nose, so it's a blue creature with sparkly skin, an angel, but I imagine she's like flushed and like, I don't know, would angels have red skin or would they have blue skin? Who knows? They're not real. Or are they? I don't know. Don't be offended, angels. I'm sorry. This was meant to be positive. Now I'm not really sure why this repaint went so well. Well, I think it went well, but I'm not sure why it went so easily, because usually it takes more planning for me to do this. Sorry for the cutting, I think it ran out of charge in between this, and obviously I also ran out of brain power because I'm not keeping this in shot. I'm very sorry, but this is kind of an important part, so I had to keep it in. So I kind of had a plan of a downwards looking eye, and I think really why this went so quickly is that I was kind of less invested in this doll. I kind of made a character, it was one of my everyday doodle in my bullet journal, but I didn't care as much about, the eyes are never symmetrical, I am working on that, but I kind of cared less about that. And some of the little techniques and some of the little ideas that kind of I think are really poignant on the doll are, one of them is purely accidental, and some of the others I was just like playing around with the pastels. I didn't even plan on using pastels, they were just sitting there and I was like, yeah sure, let's try doing a layer of pastels before I do the real arty stuff. And I just ended up going with it. Like, this is a very pastel heavy doll, so I'm definitely going to be experimenting a lot more with the pastels and creating dolls like this. Now, the eye was kind of supposed to taper, in terms of thickness of eyeliner, kind of equivalent. So it was kind of thicker, kind of at the inner middle, and then much thinner on the cat eye kind of ending flick. Now, as anyone that has tried doing cat eye can tell you, that's not how that goes. It's always a challenge. The thing is, you always go thicker, so I think it's the left eye that ended up being kind of thick, so that I had to try to match it on the other side, which I didn't wholly do, but I can't. The other side looks good, and eyes are sisters, not twins, or whatever the thing is with eyelashes. Yeah, you can see the thickness, but she's looking cute. And now we're onto our final layer. So this layer is really important for just getting the lines down, the contrast between what is supposed to be quite stark, your darker lines, and what is supposed to be kind of more muted, pastel, etc. It's also where you kind of put the last little bits, so maybe depending on how opaque you want it, like you might have a few final layers realistically, because I mean at this point this doll has no eye whites, the little white bobbles that kind of bring them to life, and doesn't have any eyelashes. So if you want that to be as dark as kind of the eyeliner area, you'd probably have to do at least 2 layers to get the same kind of opacity, but I was fine. I didn't want them to be that distinct, but because I don't think I did them that well, but I think they turned out better than expected. I would say that the trick for this is that aesthetically, like, pick a theme that you can do. So because she's kind of icy, having sharp eyelashes is appropriate. So I was kind of sorry for being in the way, like you get to see my hair. Having sharp kind of triangular eyelashes makes sense for her, so being soft and curly isn't something I can do at this point, but it also wouldn't suit this doll, so pick something that makes sense for what you can do. And now we get into the outfit. So I decided to use the boots. I'm not sure how much they actually go with the design, but I mean, they're icy, so thematically they make sense. I used this Doll Pretty, what's it called? Born Pretty, that's it, not Doll Pretty, I was thinking Doll Skill. Born Pretty sparkly eyelash, nail polish, no idea what that was, to just kind of make them cuter, make them a bit more icy, make them a bit more unique. Because honestly, the dress is pretty plain. So I got this stretchy material. It's a fancy dress store off, like, scraps. So basically I'm doing a high-low with loads of pleats, give them quite a nice volume, and so you do along the triangles and then sew it together at the front, because it's got kind of a panel that goes into the bodice. So it's kind of got this one panel down the front, because I didn't want it to just be cut in half. I think this is a bit more of a choice, at least. One tip, I had a problem with the bodice because the sewing down the little pleats meant that it's not stretchy at the front, so the amount that I left on the back wasn't enough. I actually ended up giving it a gold panel that I use to kind of keep the wings in place. It goes around the screw, but just give yourself some extra space, it'll be a lot easier. And here she is, with her brethren, just like I actually managed to get her to stand. I'm using one of the Monster High stands, and then kind of just balancing her so she's kind of leaning forwards with her arms. As you can see in the back left, that is the guinea fowl, the lavender guinea fowl, whilst the other wing is the normal guinea fowl. So she is finally with her brethren and much tinier than them, so it's a bit funny. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Give some constructive criticism, and thank you. Come again.